Welcome to the Health Conscious Living Podcast. I'm Dr. Gayle Myers, and today's special guest is Mary Huang. Mary is a wealth and legacy architect on a mission to give middle-class Americans and entrepreneurs a simple strategy to build, protect, and pass on generational wealth. She is here to disrupt the constant negative news in today's economy and save you millions. After asking the question, why am I here? Through her life experience, Mary has transformed trauma into treasure. She has dedicated her life to seek, experiment, discover, test, and craft her life as a divine spirit living in human form. Raised in wealth down the street from the Forbes estate, only to become a single mother on food stamps, she has lived on both sides of the track and brings wisdom from the depths of suicide, drug abuse, and the ultimate victory in business, life, and spirituality. Passionate about leaving a better world to future generations, she's written 2 award-winning books, seen and heard in award-winning podcasts, a documentary, and mentored Tank TV. She has shared stages with Deepak Chopra and Les Brown. Mary loves to inspire people to get even wealthier now because the world needs you. More money equals more impact. Welcome, Mary.
Dr. Gayle, thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled to have this deep conversation with you. It's going to be good.
Yes. Oh, I'm so excited to have you today, Mary. Mary, tell us about your journey, your healing journey.
Wow. Well, that's a big question. You know, being born into the womb of a mother that had mental illness, borderline personality, and then to be born in between an abortion and a miscarriage. I'm lucky to be here. But then to come out onto the earth plane, to be raised by a narcissist father and a borderline mother, being kidnapped across international lines. My mother tried to kill the both of us. I mean, it was just a lot of abuse. And that's just scratching the surface. And by 19, just the suicide attempt, because life just seemed too hard. The 10 years of drug abuse prior to that was, well, 13 to 23 was my drug abuse because life was just too painful. Being alive was too hard. And so the transformation, I believe that the divine allows us to have these horrible experiences so that we can transform and get the golden nuggets that are inherently in it. And when we see the truth of who we really are and that we are eternal beings, that we are eternal beings on in a human form on the earth plane, when we understand who we really are, that we are eternal and infinite, we can transcend anything. We call it resilience, but we can transcend anything. And then the whole point of it to me is to take that and share it with others so they can have hope in their darkest hours. And then when they get their transformation, then that's the ripple effect, because then they can pass it on forward and onward.
That's so beautiful. Mary, when did you turn to God and how did that help you pivot?
When I was 6 years old, I remember being besties with God. And I would be in the bathroom, fogging up the mirror, having these really intimate chats. And he would show me visions of why I was on the planet and what my purpose was on the earth realm. And in a way that a 6-year-old would understand, I looked like me with angel wings flying over the earth, sprinkling pixie dust or glitter. And as a 6-year-old, I understood the emotion, the feeling, and the message, even though it was so childlike, the communication visually, I understood and meant that I was here to spread light and love and anchor it into the planet. And I also was shown and would have conversations with God and the angels about, you know, once I have the fame and the attention on stage of all the different types of platforms, I would do it for you. I would be your voice box. I would be here to spread whatever you wanted me to do here on the planet. I understood that I was an agent of God. But that was also the same time where the childhood sexual abuse started to happen. And now, being spiritually mature and looking back, it all makes sense that the brighter we become and the more we understand our purpose on the planet, and that we are devout to fulfilling that mission and purpose and plan of the divine. I look at the spiritual world, the spiritual warfare is very real. It's like a chess game. There's two sides. It's either black or white. It's either dark or light. So and there's no in between. And so I've had my recent transformations that brought me closer to God, because when that started happening, those atrocious things that no child should go through started happening, I subconsciously rejected God. And I said, well, all those intimate times we had conversing about why I was here, you either forgot about me or you don't love me anymore, so I don't need you either. And so I turned away from what I understood God to be, that relationship that I had so intimately, and I went out into the wilderness from that point forward, until we fast forward through a lot of trauma again and again and again, until I left a marriage, took my 2 young daughters, left behind $1 million life that I helped to co-create, went on food stamps because we were seeking truth and stability and safety. And it was in that journey that I was broken wide enough to be humbled for the first time in decades, since 6 years old, to get on my knees and beg God to save me. Begged again and again and again. And that's why I will testify till the day I die as this body, because we are eternal, of my faith, of my journey, because now I'm unshakable. Now I understand who I am. And I'm coming back full circle to that 6-year-old understanding of being an agent of the Most High. And having that faith and trust and ability to hear and then act in accordance also translates into all areas of life, whether it's business, finance, relationships, friendships, parenting, you name it. Because the clarity of being able to hear and take the next correct step makes it available for me to stop hustling, stop being on the hamster wheel in any sector of life, and stop judging or shaming. Like, let's say, as a single mom, putting my kids through that trauma of going through a divorce, and so having that understanding of who I am and who I belong to, what I'm on the planet to do, takes away all the doubt. Doesn't mean that I don't have those moments, because we're still in a human body on planet Earth, where the veil of amnesia is strong to forget who we are. But it makes it a lot easier when you have that spiritual practice, which is what your show is all about, is the foundation of a strong spiritual practice, so that we, moment to moment, breath to breath, are walking the path of light to know who we are. It takes practice. It's a practice and a devotion.
And a journey. Speak to the moment when you knew on your knees that God had answered you. And then let's go back to that 6-year-old and share your wisdom with her.
Well, that 6-year-old has wisdom to share with me, but yes, to come full circle and share with her too. It's so great. When did I know that God answered me? So I remember days and days and days, weeks and months of begging. And I remember wanting to leave the planet because it was just so hard. I was a spiritual teacher of meditation and the esoteric arts and the psychic arts. Like, I had a voice in my community in that sector. And so when the rug got pulled out from under me, I was like, take me home, because I clearly know nothing. How can I be a teacher of this? I know nothing. But then I had 2 daughters, thankfully, that gave me the reason to stay. And so it was hard to get off the ground. I was feeling so broken. And when was that moment that I knew? I had to walk in faith to be able to leave $1 million life that I co-created, to go into knowing that I would be on food stamps, and that struggle, because I couldn't see, but I had to. Like, it was so bad. I was like, anything is better. And I have to believe there's something greater. And looking back, I can tell that the Lord God never abandoned me, even at 6 when I left. And that's what humbled me even more, was that when I understood that when I came home to God, that God never left me, not even once, that was very humbling. It's almost like letting a child fall or touch a hot stove, because the experiential learning was the one time was all they really needed. And I felt like that's what me being out there in the wilderness and for decades was allowing me to do, was to touch the stove and fall a bunch of times. That experiential learning is so intense, but now coming home, it's so strong. And so I don't think it's one moment. I think it's looking back and understanding.
Because we've never left the heart of God. We never have. It's just in our minds or in our experience, we think we have. And so that beautiful moment where you came to know without any doubt and your total certainty that you and God were still friends and still connected. And that 6-year-old could say, oh, yes, it's been a journey. And you are here to live that light and that wisdom. And now you have totally transformed your life. So speak to that.
I am so grateful. If there's anyone listening that's given birth to a child, they may understand this analogy, and I'll have to find a better one so all people can have an analogy to relate to. But after giving birth naturally with no painkillers, epidurals, or anything like that, quickly forgetting the pain of it, I feel like it's part of the deal so that I could do it again. And what I mean by that analogy is that the pain of going through the dark night of the soul again and again, and the burning and the rebirth again and again, the pain of that transformation, and forgetting it, because the payoff is so high. The payoff of illumination, revelation, ascending. And so every time we go into the depths, if we do the work and have the spiritual practice, we do have the thing to look forward to is the ascension. And it's like steps to me in my mind. We go the crash and burn, we come up and we have the revelation and we get to a new plateau. But I feel like for me in my 40s now, it's not the crash and burn anymore. Now I've got that friendship back with God, and I don't have to have it like that intensity, because now I'm back having that alignment. And yeah, I think it's really important to have that relationship with yourself, with your own spirit.
And embodying the light that you are and the gifts that you've come to share with the world. And so one of your many gifts that you're sharing with the world is about wealth and legacy and women in particular, but it probably goes all across the board. So speak to that and how you transformed into that part of your mission.
Wow. And honestly, it is going back to that 6-year-old and back to all the pieces, even in the womb, and all the moments in between that were traumatic, that opened the door for me to doubt and not know, and shut those wounds by healing them. Or the 13-year-old me that I had to go back and retrieve time and again. She was frozen because she was abandoned in that mansion with a checkbook down the street from the Forbes family estate without a guardian. My brother and I didn't get the memo from the parents that they weren't coming back. They just didn't come back. And so we had to figure life out on our own, being super sheltered up until that point, never having cooked, done laundry or anything, to suddenly be given a checkbook and an estate to manage. It was intense. And then dating drug dealers and then doing drugs for 10 years. I mean, And then doing all the wrong things to get love because there was no parental intimacy, of guidance and love and spirituality, that I was spiritually bankrupt. And so in order to fast forward, we have to slow down and look back to collect all the pieces and the golden nuggets and all of those pieces. If
Mhm.
we don't, we cannot be fully aligned and embodied in the now to fulfill the purpose and the legacy that we are all here, as special as our fingerprints are. There is no one ever going to have your name and your face and your destiny that you were created to fulfill on this planet at this important time of the paradigm shift that's already been going and rolling out for a while. But we are at this apex of a moment where
Yes.
we all get to, as light leaders of any kind of belief and faith, but if we all have the same foundation of understanding, we are here to anchor in the light on the planet during a very important, critical time. I feel the Holy Spirit right now. That's our commonality. And to bring it back to current times, being able to retrieve 6-year-old Mary, who knew the vision of why she was here, and then walking away from that, and then being abandoned in wealth and having access to things people only dream of, but to feel spiritually bankrupt, and that decades of journey to walk out of that, to go back and retrieve the wisdom there, and then to be on food stamps with 2 little girls. All of those things converging, once you heal them, makes sense that today I am serving women and families and entrepreneurs on the importance of elevating your wealth to the next level. Wherever you are, elevate to the next level, because more money equals more impact, because we are here to fulfill an important mission and purpose that only you can do. There is no competition, only collaboration. And so the more money we have to see ourselves as a steward of life force energy showing up as money, and rebuke that money is taboo. That is a veil sent to keep the masses hypnotized, not wanting to walk through the door and claim the wealth that is our birthright. It is
That
our birthright to be wealthy so that we can change the world.
absolutely. And so that was one of my questions for you. Talk about the spiritual aspect of money, please.
God wants us to be wealthy. It's written in the book. God will fund your mission if you will align and listen to why you were allowed to break onto the earth realm at this time. We were all created and seeded with a blueprint that is divine. And if we will understand the spiritual principles, we will be funded. Wealth will follow people who first pursue their highest calling on their soul and life. And at first it's challenging and scary because we're going against the grain of what society, culture, gender rules, whatever, pop culture. There are veils and blueprints that are incorrect, that we have to be brave enough to explore and redefine so that we can be liberated and step out of that cage of what we inherited through our DNA's epigenetic memory, through our own traumatic memories in this lifetime, through the bloodline of, well, in my belief system, familiar spirits, strong men, chains that we have to break through generational patterns. We can just call it that, generational patterns that are inherited through the bloodline. We can say it that way as well, that we have to be the one to wake up and break those chains. So wealth is our birthright, but it does take us studying how to fight for our right to reclaim our wealth. And that's what I'm all about.
Yes, and especially for women, if you look at the history of women and money, and back historically where you married it, and You didn't own it yourself. And here we are, fast forward to 2022, and you. So let's talk about your mission and the legacy mission. It's so important. You've just so beautifully spoken about the spiritual aspect of money and the alignment and the support that you receive, that we receive when we're aligned on our mission. So please speak to that.
To the alignment of
And
the mission, yes. It takes a process, because when we are born into a human form, we are inheriting all the good and all the trauma from the beginning of our bloodline.
Mm.
That's a lot. So if our lineage has gone through the Great Depression, wars, famines, those science has already proven, I know you know, doctor, but science has already proven that epigenetically trauma will leave a chemical mark on your DNA, and that's how it's passed on through generation to generation. But the great news is that positive. So if trauma can change your DNA, so can the opposite, the positive love and joy. And in between, that's your transformation. So that in between is the journey. That's the path. And having a mentor, having a show like this to listen to subject matter experts, having books to read, it's really important to put yourself in a community of people who are on the same path, who are also ahead of you, because you are influenced by the 5 people you spend the most time with. Whether it's finance, it translates into your finance, into your spirituality, into whether you're married or divorced. It just impacts you on every level. So you want to be surrounding yourself with the people who are ahead, people who are on path with you. But it's that journey, while it may be very challenging, the result and the payoff is freedom. It's true liberation. And it's you being aligned and embodied with why you were created. You're embodying you. Okay, we got to detox our mind, detox our bodies, detox as many aspects as we can, even our homes, of anything that is not representative of what you believe God is. And when you do that, you are taking action to prove and show your alignment. That helps your embodiment. And then it becomes easier and easier until it is just easy.
And for me, it was discovering saying hello to your inner light, saying hello to spirit within. And that is the connection, the tether to all of the track of alignment.
Definitely, definitely. That light inside is giving us life. And we, most often, humans are not raised during those beginning years in an environment where the guides, the parents, the mentors, the teachers are having that conversation. But it's the most important conversation to have. Without that light, that soul giving us breath, we are dust. So we really need to flip it back around and have that conversation with our young, because that's the legacy that we're leaving behind, a better world for the next and the next and the next generations.
And raising them with the consciousness of who they truly are. So is that why you wrote The Empowered Child?
Yeah, so I opened a school called the Light Warrior School for Children, and we taught meditation. The whole point of it for me, and I hired teachers, and my core value was emotional intelligence, stress management, spiritual ascension, and giving them an environment where they were allowed to keep that connection to God and spirit alive. And not only that, but to really strengthen it. Give them the permission in the environment. Yes. And the grandparents and the parents were just so pleased. They wish they had that school. So did I. And I wrote the book because it was an answer to the common question that they would ask all the time. What are you doing at the school? So I created the Empower program, the method, Empower method, and wrote it in a book. I just won an award, actually.
Oh,
And
congratulations.
thank you. Thank you.
Wonderful.
And it's all about the children. It's the book is a call to action to the mother or the parent to realize that to have an empowered child, and it's all about raising conscious, confident, connected kids, connected to the light within, to
Mm.
spirit, right?
Mhm.
If we want to connect to God, it feels like it's so outside of us, it's so big. It's in all things, there's oneness, but it starts in here. Exactly. And so it's not, we're not separated. And that's where I think the fall begins, is to think and buy into the feeling that we're separate from the divine, separate from one another, separate from anything. It's all one fabric. And so the book is the call to action. If you want that empowered child that we all do, it begins with us.
With
So,
the parents, yes, and the teachers
yes.
and the mentors. And oh, so tell me about your two beautiful daughters and how are you now modeling and teaching them through
Mm,
your beautiful transformation?
thank you for that question. They gave me the wings to fly out of a challenging situation. If it wasn't for them, I'm not sure how much longer I would have taken it. You know, they watched me go through a challenging time and I was real with them. While I didn't show the emotions at all times during the rawest moments, I saved those for private times. But it was visible how hard it was. But it's the same mentality in the book, which is we can use everything as a teaching moment.
Mhm.
Everything is a
Absolutely.
teaching moment. Life itself is a learning expedition of spirit and human form it's a laboratory, that's too hot, that's dangerous, that's evil, that's wonderful, that's glorious. And like Goldilocks, until we find that alignment, which was always within to
Mm.
begin with. And so them watching my journey to embodiment and refinement is the best way they can learn, is to see, wow, that was hard. Most recently, I brought them to Phoenix. I live in LA, to watch me for the first time speak on stage and talk about really difficult subjects. And it was very challenging merging being mom and being a single mom and being an entrepreneur. But there were so many highs of how glorious it was to share those moments together. But then at the end of the day, we all agreed we would do it again in a heartbeat. And my 10-year-old, the oldest one, said, Mom, yes, we had the highs and the lows, but we grew together spiritually. Because I said, what do you mean? I knew, but I'm like, what do you mean? She goes, spiritually, we grew together.
Oh, so beautiful.
So beautiful. And
My
that's their
goodness.
legacy. Yes.
Amazing. So thank you for sharing that. And Mary, what three things would you like to share with the audience as we begin to close?
Yes. I believe that wealth without a divine purpose, embodiment, and anchoring. So first, we have to get super clear on walking the path and what that means. Educating ourselves in the spiritual walk. That is so important. That is like first and foremost, because we are more spiritual than we are physical.
Mm.
But we're taught to depend mostly on our physical senses. And that is part of the veil of amnesia and delusional thinking and distorted thinking and keeping us off path from the true purpose of why we're even in existence. And we're here for such a short time. My biggest wish is that that piece really resonates with you and that you understand the urgency and the importance and the criticalness, especially in today's environment, spiritually and economically, that we have a duty to get as wealthy as possible. But the first step is to master the meaning of life, which is that spiritual path. So wealth without a divine purpose is not only meaningless, it's lethal, because I was a product of that, I know. And number two is that we have to master financial strategies. Ultimately, as we know, because we just spent this whole time talking about it, if we don't like what we see happening in the world and everything crumbling around us, the education system, the way food is created in America, the medical system, pharmaceuticals, banking, investment, you name it, every sector is crumbling because we're in the paradigm shift for the new light to grow and sprout. And that's why you're listening to this right now, because you are part of that paradigm shift. And without money, how far can we get in our mission to change the world? Not very far. And then we're just going to be caught in the loop of victimization and thinking that, well, that's for other people, not me. And that's not true. So we have to learn the rules of the money game, which is what I do. And number 3, master your mind and your DNA memory. Our subconscious mind is a computer. You could take out the software and put in new ones from the trauma that you inherited and experienced in this lifetime. And number 2 of that third point, the DNA memory of the epigenetic traumas that we inherited, you can clear that too. So those are my points that I want to leave the audience with to go off and explore and liberate yourself.
Thank you so much. So Mary, how can people follow you and gain wisdom from you?
First, Dr. Gayle, I just want to say thank you for having me and having this platform for people who share the light and the passion to help others step into their light and alignment so that they can serve the world as well and join this community with you. Thank you for having that platform. It's more important now than ever.
Thank you so much. Beautiful.
And if people want to connect with me, they can go to Instagram is probably the easiest, _Mary _Huang, which is HUAN, like Nancy, G, or go to my website. It's marylhuang.com.
Thank you for this beautiful, enlightening conversation. We are all better for it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Gayle.
You're welcome. My pleasure.